How are you all doing today, brothers and sisters? There is a comment going on concerning the Russian President Vladimir Putin, saying that Africa is a cemetery. Yeah, there has been a similar comment from a Ghanaian pop song rapper Shatta Wale, also saying that Ghana or Africa is a village. So we will look into that later on. But we are talking about why Africa is a cemetery, according to the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. He is saying that Africa is a cemetery. He doesn't live in Africa. So why is he saying that Africa is a cemetery? It means there is something going on that we don't know. So we're going to use this opportunity to look deep into the statement from the Russian president. When issues like this come out, people try to get angry and they try to insult the Russian president or Donald Trump. Donald Trump also made a similar comment like Africa is a nasty place, or Africa is a shithole continent. That is what Donald Trump was saying. And then within some few months, the Russian president is also saying that Africa is a cemetery. So we will look into that. Yep. We let us see right here. This is the news. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Africa is a cemetery. So I'm saying. And this is Putin, the Russian president. First of all, let me ask you this. What do we mean by cemetery? What goes on in a cemetery? Think about this. What do we mean by a cemetery? And what goes on in a cemetery? A cemetery is a place, that is what we have been told. For now, a cemetery is a place whereby we keep dead people. Is a home for the dead bodies. That is cemetery. Cemetery is a place whereby people don't speak. The people in the cemetery, they don't speak, they don't see, they take no actions, they have no future, they don't know what is going on around them. It means they are in what? In a cemetery. A cemetery is the place for the dead. They have no feelings. Even if something is happening to them, they don't know. That is the meaning of a cemetery. Now, let us look through Africa and see what is going on in Africa. I am from Ghana right now. So I'm just going to focus everything on Ghana with a little bit generalization in Africa. So I'm talking about more specifically Ghana right now. What do you see in Ghana today? What do you see in Nigeria today? That makes Nigeria or Ghana or Africa in general a cemetery. Think about it. For somebody like Vladimir Putin to come out and say Africa is a cemetery, it means he knows what is going on. You see what I'm saying? He cannot make such a comment without having a proof or a backing. He knows what he's saying. It means if we, the people living in Africa, doesn't know what is around us, we should sit back and see what is going on properly. Not too long ago, Donald Trump said Africa is a shithole continent. And now, Africa, there is a graduation from being a shithole to a cemetery. You see what I'm saying? There is a graduation. Africa is now graduating, according to Vladimir Putin, from a shithole to a cemetery. You see what I'm saying? And we know cemetery is a place for the dead. And the dead people in cemetery, they don't talk. They take no actions. They have no feelings. They don't care about the future. They have no plans. They are just there. You see what I'm saying? Cemetery is the place for the corpse. The dead people. They are just there for nothing. You see what I'm saying? So let us see what is going on. I have a little bit of PowerPoint here for us to go through. And Africa is a cemetery. You see, when you go to Ghana right now, there is a VIP buses accident. Like I was telling you, cemetery is a place for the dead. Cemetery is a place where death is common. Death is common in cemetery. The dead bodies are kept in a cemetery. And the people are dying every day in Africa. It means Africa is turning out to be a cemetery. In Ghana, there is a VIP buses accident every day. Even in America, it's difficult seeing a bus accident. In China, it's difficult seeing a bus accident. But in Ghana, in Nigeria, it's very common seeing accidents every day because our leaders are not willing to fix the transportation systems for us because they want us to what? Die. You see what I'm saying? So that is why Africa is a cemetery. That is point number one. Africa is a cemetery because of a lot of accidents going on. Africa is a cemetery. Number two, because of death prophecies. Africa has more prophets than any other continent. And our prophets in Africa, the prophets of Jesus in Africa, they don't see progress for Africa. In their visions, they don't see better things for the people in Africa. All they know is death. All they bring out every day is death prophecies. You see what I'm saying? So even the prophets want us to die. All the prophets in Africa, they want our death. So it means Africa is turning out to be a cemetery. So I was asking this question. Why is it that Jesus is always bringing out death prophecies? Jesus doesn't see unemployment going on in Africa. Jesus doesn't see people are suffering in Africa. All Jesus can see, or the only thing that Jesus can give to his prophets is to tell us that somebody is gonna die. Somebody is gonna die very soon, so we should get ready to cry. Because Jesus, in our local dialect, in our popular local dialect in Ghana, Jesus is Yesu. It means we cry, we are crying. Yesu, we cry. So Jesus is always bringing out death prophecies so that we will cry more. Ebola is killing a lot of people. Ebola was created to depopulate Africa. Ebola is killing a lot of people, and with a lot of dead bodies in Africa, it means Africa is a cemetery. It means Africa is a cemetery. Boko Haram is in Africa, killing innocent young women and children in Africa, killing our population with a lot of dead people in Africa. It means Africa is a cemetery because cemetery is a place where dead bodies are kept. You see what I'm saying? So Africa is a cemetery. Middle Eastern is part of Africa, but they decided to twist you. People are dying every day in the Middle Eastern. The northeastern part of Africa, people are dying every day in the Middle Eastern. As is being quoted in Genesis chapter 11, verse 1 to 9. People are dying every day in the Middle East. You see what I'm saying? And a cemetery, and their dead bodies are kept in Africa. They are dying in Africa where their dead bodies are kept in Africa. It means Africa is a cemetery. Cemetery is very quiet. One of the characteristics of a cemetery is that it's very quiet. African leaders cannot speak for their people. It means they are quiet. They participate in all the United Nations meetings and all of that, but they can't speak out for their people. They are dumb. They can't speak. It means they themselves have accepted the fact that they are coming out of a cemetery. They live in a cemetery, so they cannot talk. They are very quiet. They don't see what is going on. The only thing that they care about is for them to get their luxurious cars, their luxurious vehicles, and their mansions. That is all they care about. They don't care about the well-being of the people. And as a matter of fact, they are not able to speak for their own motherland. It means they have accepted they are coming from a cemetery. Yep, the people in Africa also cannot speak. They are very quiet. All they care about is following their deceptive leaders. They follow lies every day. They trust their leaders and their pastors and their prophets. And as a result of that, they are afraid and they cannot speak. There is always been African Union meeting that is useless. There is ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. That is useless because we don't know what they talk about. That doesn't benefit Africa. We don't know what is going on in there. Africa is very quiet with people dying every day from unknown diseases and all of that. Unknown vaccinations killing Africans. Unknown source of Ebola killing Africans. It means Africa is a cemetery. Let us face the fact. We have big belly leaders. They only care about their bellies. They don't care about us. You see what I'm saying? And we have power conscious leaders. They're killing their own people. They call them foot soldiers. They're killing their own foot soldiers. They're killing their own citizens for rituals during election times. It means Africa is a cemetery. Let us face the fact. Cemetery is a place whereby the people are not able to talk. It's very quiet in the cemetery. The same thing going on in Africa. We are not able to talk. Our leaders cannot talk for us. Our leaders cannot speak out for us. And we ourselves, we are not able to speak because of what? We are afraid. And we have accepted the fact that we live in a cemetery. The dead doesn't know or they do not know any development. When you go to the cemetery, the dead bodies, they don't care about development. They are always in one place in the cemetery. Whenever we dig the grave and put them in their graves, they stay in their graves. They don't move. They don't speak. No actions. They are just there. They are just being. You see what I'm saying? They are just there. They are just being. Alright. So we are always in one stage in Africa. No movement. No improvement. We have poor roads. Religion is giving us false hope. And the people are hopeless upon all the hopes that the religion is giving to us. We are hopeless every day. We have no future. The dead has no future. Africa has no future. It means Africa is a cemetery. Because when you go to the cemetery, nobody is talking about future over there. Nobody cares about the future in a cemetery because they are all dead. They have no feelings. They don't care about what is going on. They see no improvement. They are only there because they have to be there in the cemetery. Dead citizens are the people who live in a cemetery. They cannot see what is going on. All they see is they only see Jesus and Allah because they put the cross of Jesus on top of the graves in a cemetery. So the dead in the cemetery, they only see Jesus or Allah. Jesus and Allah are the same. You see what I'm saying? According to Quran chapter 3 verse 3, Jesus and Allah are the same. They see prayer camps. You see, some people will go there and pray for the dead before they put them in the graves. That is exactly what our pastors are doing. Our pastors pray for you every day, but you see no improvement. The same way we do for the dead people. We pray for them before we put them in the grave. And after that, they will put the cross of Jesus or Allah on top of their graves, and they remain in their gravities, for they cannot do anything, they cannot move. They stay in that place forever. You see what I'm saying? So that citizens, they cannot see, they cannot talk, they cannot take actions. They are just laying in the low ground with the wickedness upon them. Wicked leaders are walking upon you every day. You don't see, you only see them above you. That is all you know. And you know that you think you are hopeless. You cannot do anything for yourself. So Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, they are telling you to wake up and stand for your right. Stand up for your right. Stand up for your well-being. Stand up for your future. Get out of your graves. People in Africa, more especially Ghana and Nigeria, should get out of their graves. They have been sleeping for so long. The main issues here. For example, in Africa, whenever you are severely sick, you have to pay money before doctors will take care of you. But in America and in Britain and all of that, it is not like that. We have poor farmers. The farmers that are giving us food, they are the most poor people that you will see today in Africa. Meanwhile, the pharmacists are very rich. The farmers themselves, the natural farmers, are poor, but the pharmacists are rich. It doesn't make sense, right? Farmers are poor. They give us food, they give us natural food to eat. They are rather poor. And pharmacists, they give you medication because you are sick, and they are rather rich. See what I'm saying? No school buses for the youth, for the children to go to school. Children walk long distance to school. By the way, they are being killed on their way to school and all of that. We have young children drowning in rivers and all of that, being killed every day. You see what I'm saying? So Africa is a cemetery. No jobs. There is no job, no employment for the people. And the people only have Jesus and Allah and blood donation in Africa. The people have only Jesus, Allah, and blood donation. They have false prophets, poor electricity systems, and poor urban ventilations. The cities that are very hot and dirty, poor ventilation in the cities. Accra, Kumasi, for instance, in Lagos, Abuja, in Nigeria, is very dirty. You see what I'm saying? The place stinks. And one of the characteristics of a cemetery is a place that stinks. Before the dead people finally got rotten, one of the characteristics or one of the main issues going on in the cemetery is that it's very smelly. You see what I'm saying? It stinks. That is exactly what is going on in Africa. You have lazy rappers and prophets. Prophets of Jesus are very rich, while people are hard workers, are poor. And the truth is now a crime in the presence of corruption in Africa. So this is exactly what Putin, Trump, and Pence are telling us in Africa, that we should wake up. We should wake up and stand for our rights. Vladimir Putin is saying that Africa is a cemetery. That is very true. Our African leaders, they are not able to speak for us. They don't care for us. The only thing that they know, the only thing that they care about, the only thing that they are fighting for is themselves and their family members. That is all they know. That is all they have been doing for so many years. And now, we are lucky to have Donald Trump and Putin. And they have the platform to tell Africans to wake up. If Donald Trump is saying that Africa is a shithole, It means Africans should get ready to wake up and fix themselves. Vladimir Putin is saying that Africa is a cemetery. It means Africans are dead. They don't see what is going on. They only see their graves and the cross of Jesus. The cross of Jesus symbolizes death. It's a representation for death. You see what I'm saying? If all these are going on in Africa, and Africa stinks, before the dead perishes, first of all, they have to stink. You see what I'm saying? So let us get ready to fix ourselves. Let us get ready to stand for truth. Corruption stinks, and that only occurs on a large scale in a cemetery. It's only in Africa whereby journalists, fake media journalists, are getting rich every day, whereby hard-working farmers and teachers are also getting poor and poorer every day. What is going on? Let us wake up. In Europe and America, farmers are very rich, but in Africa, farmers are very poor. What is going? Somebody who is giving you food to eat in Africa is very poor, and somebody who is just deceiving you with music, deceiving you with rap songs, deceiving you with entertainment, deceiving you with movies, Kumewood, Nollywood, Gollywood, and whatever. False prophets, fake pastors, fake Islamic malams are getting richer every day. Does it make sense? It does not. It means we live in a cemetery. Africa as a continent, who doesn't know a future, who doesn't plan, who doesn't care about future, it means Africa is dead. It's only the dead that doesn't know the future. The dead doesn't have plans for themselves because they live in a cemetery. Yes. It's about time we wake up. So at this point, what Vladimir Putin is saying is very true. It's very true. But I am very disappointed in Vladimir Putin because he is also a world leader. He is also a world leader. And I'm very sure that they have partnership with the so-called African corrupt leaders. You see what I'm saying? So instead of them telling Africans, helping Africans, laying out the outline or the guidelines for the African leaders to also help fix or get out of the cemetery that he is talking about, he is instead making fun of Africa. That is one of the symptoms or one of the signs from a bad friend. Vladimir Putin is a friend of Africa because they are friends with African leaders. For him to come out and make such a comment without even first of all having to, sit down with the African leaders to find out how best they can get Africa from the cemetery. Instead of him sitting down with the African leaders, finding out how best they can solve or they can get African from the cemetery, rather than coming out to make fun of Africa, is one of the symptoms or one of the signs of a bad friend. So Vladimir Putin should be ashamed of himself. Donald Trump, for instance, should also be ashamed of himself for first of all, allowing his wife to visit Africa that he is claiming is a shithole continent. Like I made a video the other time describing how Donald Trump should be ashamed of himself for allowing his wife to visit a shithole continent. Because ever since he made that comment, Africa is still a shithole. Africa, the corruption and the unemployment, the debt issues going on, the unnecessary accidents. Vampires are drawing blood from innocent poor Africans. especially in Ghana and Nigeria, every day. It's still there. Nothing is being done about that. And still Donald Trump allowing his wife to visit such environment. It means there is something wrong with him. And I don't understand. But it all comes to the conclusion that they are making fun of us. Our leaders are selling us to our oppressors in Africa. Our leaders are our main source of problems. Our leaders are our main headache. You see what I'm saying? There is a saying in my dialect that sa abuwa bi beka wa na efiri won tumem. Sa abuwa bi beka wa na efiri won tumem. You see what I'm saying? So if something is going on with us in Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon, Senegal, Africa, it means we have to sit down and look into our clothes. Our enemy lives within our environment. Our enemy lives in Africa. Our enemy is a parasite. They live in our clothes. Our leaders are our parasite today in Africa. They're killing us for rituals. They are creating death traps. You see what I'm saying? Whenever they are building bridges in Africa, they know for sure that within the next 5-6 years, the bridge or the roads that they are constructing for us will create accident and the people will die. They know. But they create all these things in Africa as a death trap so that in the long run they will be able to kill us. All these together makes Africa a cemetery. See what I'm saying? So Vladimir Putin is right. But he himself should be ashamed of himself because he is a friend of Africa. What are friends there for? If I'm not able to help my friend move forward, it means I am also a failure. If my friend is in a mess and I'm not able to help them, and at the end of the day, I'm turning around, making nasty comments just to make fun of them, it means I am a bad friend. You see what I'm saying? So it goes a long way to the world stage that in the United Nations, they are not ready to help Africa. They are rather sucking the breast of Africa. Because Africa is very rich with all the natural resources, with all the gold, oil and diamond, with the timber and all of that. And they are sucking our breast. That is exactly what the other countries are doing. Africa is the motherland. And the mother is there. And all the other children are sucking the breast of the mother. They don't care about the strength of the mother. They don't care about the source of food for the mother. All they care about is taking whatever they want. Meanwhile, our African leaders within Africa, they are just like dead sheep. They are just like a dead sheep. They don't talk. They are just like dead goats. You see what I'm saying? Because we live in a cemetery. When you read the Bible, it's saying that Jesus is a sheep, is a shepherd. So I'm saying our leaders are like sheep. They can't speak for us. Let us wake up. Yep. They are taking advantage of us. Our political leaders in Africa, they are parasites. A typical example is this old guy in Zimbabwe. A typical example is J.J. Rawlings is also a typical example in Ghana. Robert Mugabe is a typical example. This Nigerian president is also a typical example of a parasite. Ghana president Nana Akufo-Addo is also an example of a parasite. They make themselves rich. They drive in all their luxurious cars. They make themselves comfortable. They're killing innocent people in Africa. Because Africa is what? It's a cemetery. With our leaders themselves being the parasites. Yes, I was happy when I saw Shatawale making a comment that Africa is a village. I will take time to explain the meaning of the village that he is talking about. It's another full teachings that I will come out with. But for now, Vladimir Putin is saying Africa is a cemetery. Is it true? I have the questions. Is yes or no? If the answer is yes, why Africa is a cemetery? I have given you enough evidence that Africa is truly a cemetery. What are we going to do from now to make sure that Africa is no more a cemetery? What are we going to do about the death of Africa? What are we going to do about that? It starts from here. It's between me and you. Yes. Remember, we have a generation ahead coming up. We have unborn generation coming. That is being coded in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 4. Generation comes and go, but Africa will remain forever. Generations come and go. There is no judgment day coming. The religion is deceiving you with so-called judgment day. No, Jesus is coming to take you to any heaven. The heaven that you see is only water. There is no golden city above. There is no golden city. It's only water. That is why water is being raining every day from the sky. Because there is another sea up there. The sky is blue because there is another sea up there. And the sea is blue. Waters above, waters below. Because of the fact that we live inside a cosmic egg. Waters above, waters below. And we live in the middle. There is no golden city above. There is no Allah above. There is no Jesus coming for you. And the truth is, generation comes and go, as is being coded in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 4. But the earth remains forever. But Ghana remains forever. Africa remains forever. America remains forever. So at the end of the day, what are we doing for the future generations? It's about time we wake up. This is what I call the moment of truth and natural wisdom, with no corruption. So I'm saying, I love you all. My WhatsApp number is +1619 841 8172. And I use the email as well, +1619 874 6444. Let us stand up in the knowledge of truth. Let us get out of the religious fears and the religious lies. Let us stand up on our own. Let us stand up in our strength. Let us stand up in the natural wisdom. The dead has no wisdom. If Vladimir Putin is saying, if we are going to continuously accept the fact that Africa is a cemetery, it means we have no brains. Because in the cemetery, they are not thinking. There is no wisdom in the cemetery. The dead knows nothing. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 4 to 5. It's also been quoted over there. So if you live in a cemetery, you don't know anything. Absolutely, you know nothing. Let us wake up. All right. I love you all.